Your boys are back. It is another episode of We Are Something Else presents from the cheap seats with the dynamic duo. It's your boy CB, and I am joined as always by my brother from the West Coast, my brother E Rich. Mr. Cali Cool, how are you doing, my man?
Good, bro. How you doing?
Doing all right, doing all right. We are powering through since the last show. Me and our boy our money got some golfing in Williamsburg, bro, and it was fun. And I cannot wait to share some of the highlights that we got because might be able to go viral. I don't think you guys understand some of the content that we got is hilarious. So that was amazing. Great golf. How have you been since the last show, bro?
Trash with this lighting situation that we got going on over here. I'm disappearing, but I'm coming back. I'm here. I'm back. I'm back. Nah. Listen, man. I needed some shoe therapy. The bro sent me a colorway of a shoe, Oregon Duck colors, and I had to go ahead and just make that purchase for in honor of that today. So I did that, and just outside of that, bro, some time off is well needed, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just got some R&R, man. So I can't complain. So I should be juiced up. I should be ready to go. So let's jump into it. So for the pregame, first joint I want to talk about, we are fight fans out here. And I mean, this wasn't the result necessarily that I wanted because I am a Dricus du Plessis fan, him being the brother from South Africa. But Khamzat Chimaev absolutely dominated this fight and is the new UFC middleweight champion of the world. 50-44 on every card. 12 takedowns. 21 minutes of control time. Domination, bro. Absolute domination. Did you watch or were you tuned in? What are your thoughts on this? Because dudes looked unstoppable, like since he kind of came onto the scene during the pandemic.
Yeah, listen, I was like, damn, like this. It almost felt like his version of a master class. You know what I'm saying? Just the way that he was going about it. I mean, it's kind of one of those, you want to show somebody a tape of fighting, that might be the like that might be the one, that might be the card that you look at. I mean, he just, at the end of the day, the amount of skill that was like added into this, like I'm fading away into the scene, this shit is crazy. That it just, it's one of those ones where like if it comes on again, like you're gonna watch it and be like, damn, like it really was that good. Like he really was on his shit that day.
And what's crazy is people may remember. I can't remember if this was last year or the year before, but on short notice, Kamaru Usman took a fight against Chimaev at like the higher weight class, and held his own. And they asked Khamzat, they're like, "Yo, what's the most difficult fight you've ever had?" And he was like, "Bro, it's easy." It was Kamaru. And you think about like the disadvantage that he had going into that fight, and just the level that this guy Khamzat's gotten to, man, it's crazy. So we might be seeing the next like run at middleweight. We'll see, but this dude, he's looking unstoppable right now. You know what I mean?
Gotta strike when the iron is hot, bro, for real. And like I said, I don't know. Did they talk about like who would be next up in line?
They literally today, it's DeReiner and I can't remember the other dude's name, and I don't want to say the wrong name and butcher it, but there's basically a middleweight eliminator that the UFC announced like earlier today. So we'll get that posted. But that it's basically going to be whoever wins that fight will have their chance, and that should be fun. That should be a fun one. And the last one I wanted to touch on before we get into, the bright light segment, what I really wanted to talk about this week. We got to play on the Browns, on the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. Joe Flacco will be starting the season. I don't think the two of us were necessarily surprised that this was the choice. But the question is, how many games do you think Joe will get through before a switch is made? Either through injury, which we don't wish that upon anybody, unless it's Daniel Snyder, or through actual poor play. You know what I mean?
I think we talked about like the first 4 or 5 games are against like crazy top defenses, right? Probably all top 10. If he makes it through, I think he makes it through maybe 4 or 5 before the question I'll pose on side of that. So my answer is 4 or 5, but is Kenny number 2? Because like we could be talking about this now. Flacco, first of all, I hated they were like breaking news. There was nothing breaking about him being a starter. I was so upset with it. Like, come on, man, stop that. Yeah. Breaking news would have been if they would have been like Shador starting like first string. That's breaking news. But anyway,
I don't think Kenny would be 2.
You don't think so?
Only because this dude has barely played at all. Like he's been hurt all camp. So, availability is an ability. So I'm at least going to let in my opinion, the Young Bucks have a leg up on him because they've at least been able to play.
I mean, I don't know if you should play if you're throwing pick sixes, but and they're complaining about it. But I think an element to that though is this is going to dictate Cleveland's future for the next probably 5 or 6 years. And I know people are like, damn, that's a long time. But again, you got old ass Flacco, you got Diddy. If you keep Kenny and Shador and the other guy, you only have a room that's still young, but you don't have that backup, if you will, kind of like that veteran player that's been there for a while. So what do you do, when you have that? And again, you're going to kill Myles Garrett's, his career.
He came back, bro. He had his chance to leave.
All for the money.
So he's good. He's good. We don't need to worry about Garrett. We don't need to worry about him.
Money over losses, bro. Crazy.
I'm not over here watching another man's pockets. You know what I mean? Get yours when you can get it. The game is fleeting. I got you. But this is gonna kind of tie into something I'm going to talk about later. But for Under the Bright Lights, the main topic that I wanted to talk about this week, and I'll set it up for you, Ian. I want to get your thoughts on this. So, in the English Premier League, the arguably the biggest soccer league in the world, they have a relegation system, and this is common throughout soccer throughout the world, which basically means you have the main league, then you have basically tiers below there, and in the Premier League, there's 20 teams. If you finish in the bottom 3, you get relegated down to the second tier. And the 3 teams from the bottom tier or the tier below qualify and get promoted. And the amount of money that's involved in these stakes is significant. You know what I mean? When you're getting the ad revenue, the TV contracts from the Premier League versus the championship, which you could watch those games. They're on ESPN Plus or whatever, but it's not the same. There is a certain level of importance now that actually exists within every game during the season. And for people that don't know, in most international soccer leagues, there is no playoff system. It's basically how you do during the regular season. That you do the best during the regular season, you're the best. You win. You know what I mean? Playoff system, I could be mistaken, but it just seems like a very American concept. Let's get people, Anyways, we know that in a product such as the NFL, there is too much money involved. There's too much money involved. So this
Yep.
would never happen. So that's not the question here. The question
Yep.
is, do you think it would benefit American sports if more of them had something like this? So it actually placed an importance where if you do not perform up to the standard, you are getting relegated, and the amount of money that therefore you can make is hindered. Like, I think some of these owners would be acting and moving way different if that was the case, because otherwise you get 20 years of this crook in Washington just taking people's money, because as soon as the TV deal is signed, he's in the green. You know what I mean? So, like, what are your, and it can extend past the NFL. Like, I'm a Wizards fan, bro. Like, John Wall, the people, this is recorded. John Wall retired today. The years of John Wall and Bradley Beal are some of the most fun that I've had. And you know how many championships we won? You know how many Eastern Conference finals we were in? I haven't experienced any success, from that team. The Wizards may have gotten relegated at one or another point in my life if this was the setup. You know what I'm talking about, E? So what are your thoughts? Like, do you think this is something that would be more of a benefit? Would we have to suffer the same way that some of us have had to suffer through some of our favorite teams over the years?
All right. So since you want me to be the villain, which is fine, I have no problem with playing that role. I hate the fact that the NBA adopted that whole play-in tournament. It almost kind of goes along with these kids nowadays with participation, kind of situations. Bro, it used to be if your team was not eighth, you're not making the playoffs. What the incentive? But again, it's money. I understand that, because now you get extra games. You do have somewhat more of a fight, but then the question is where was the fight to begin with, knowing that you had to fight for the eighth seed in order for you to get in the playoff? That used to be the one thing that would always get us, like, you'd see the 7, 8, 9 teams kind of going at it, like, to get to that eighth spot. But you're talking about a team that'd be like 5 games out of eighth place, 7 games out of eighth place. And then you kind of sit there and be like, well, damn, if you the eighth spot, you worked all that hard and you can get bounced after game 1. So I like the idea of that. First of all, let me go back. Shout out to Liverpool for that game. My bro was definitely cussing at the TV a lot that game. I don't know if anybody watched it but us, but he was definitely cussing at the TV during that game.
I'm alone in my hotel room after the round of golf that me and Armani have played. And I'm like, I don't know if other people are like in the hotel at this point, but I'm acting like I'm the only one there.
Yeah.
I think I knocked some shit over. I picked everything back up, but I mean, it was like that.
No, I mean, I think there's always good times for change, but you also got to realize, like I said, the difference in the money from the Premier League than to like an NFL or to, if you will, the NBA. Now, could this work for, say, the WNBA, because they're kind of still new? Could they adopt this? Because they kind of have, a certain thing where, it's still their top 8. Will they ever get to the point? And they're expanding, right? I think they're getting two more teams in the next 2 years. And then I think even after that, they're going to, so money should be the motivator, clearly, when it comes to the organization. But also at the end of the day, luxury tax and certain cities that you're in, I think that's what hinders us out here. So I don't know if they can, my question is, how would they adopt that with what we have to deal with out here as an owner? Not as if you and I own a damn team or some shit. So.
Right, not outside of Madden or 2K. But no, that's the thing. I think that the systems that we currently have in place in our games now, it's too ingrained. Like, it would have to be something completely new, or you're basically tearing it down. Because the idea, like, I think the example would be, we're old enough to remember NFL Europe used to exist. Like, and you can kind of think the same if like the XFL or any of these other leagues that have popped up over the years to kind of fill in the gap ever since they did away with NFL Europe and stuff. You know what I mean? Imagine if that was like the second tier of the NFL. And it's like, how would you institute a second league that's technically like the same? It's the same product, but we're legitimately saying, yeah, there's a different TV contract. You're playing in, your own stadiums or whatever. I think that it would just be too big of an overhaul to try to implement it. It would have to be like just a completely new league. I'm thinking, like Saudi will be coming in and being like, it's the new whatever here in the States. Like, this is what we're doing. And like, it would be like the live golf of you know what I mean? Like, it would have to be brand new, it could not be the exact same. And with that said, like, I don't think if this was up to the vote, no owner would agree to this. No American owner is agreeing to this, because part of the allure is that you can't get relegated. You know what I mean? If you own an NFL franchise, it doesn't matter how bad you are every year. It doesn't matter if you don't sell tickets to your games, because the way that the TV contracts are set up, you're always in the green. So there's no incentive necessarily to make the product better. And as capitalism goes, you're trying to maximize your profits. So if you think that you can still be doing all right for yourself without actually shelling out to make the team any better, what's the incentive there, unless you're going to do it out of the kindness of your own heart? You know what I mean? And I don't know too many billionaires personally, but I also don't know how many of them are doing stuff like honestly out of the kindness of their own heart.
Probably none.
Yeah. No, but do you see a way that something like this could ever like actually be implemented into a current league, or are you kind of thinking along the same lines as me? It would have to you'd have to start it over with how complicated and how just the money would work.
Probably would have to start over, but it got me to thinking, let's say the two top teams from the developmental league, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go up against the 8th seed on the East and the West, and if they win, now they're in the NBA
down in the playoffs. I think that's like a compromise that I think could work. It gives an incentive to not finish in 7 or 8, which, again, I totally agree with you. Because wasn't the whole playing thing like that was a pandemic kind of, we got to adjust to the situation that we have going on. And if we're being honest, during that period of time, we wanted as much sports and entertainment as we could get because we couldn't do as much, So like, we were cool with them adding extra games and, making it more entertaining for us to figure out who was going to make the playoffs. Now we're back. Now we're back to the 82 game grind. The playoffs the NBA playoffs already feel as long as the regular season,
It is like, because we're not getting well, again, change the format. It's 7 games all the way through. It used to be best of 5, and then once you got to the conference finals, it was best of 7, and of course the finals, right? I think in that same sense, it's one of those. I mean, it's always going to be about money, right? Yep. And I think the thing about it is, now somebody can capitalize, because clearly, the Lakers and what I think wherever their D-League name is right now. Listen, you mess around and you might have an owner who's like, I got a top team in the NBA that's in the playoffs, but I also got a developmental league that just got the 8th spot. Right? So yeah,
How would that work? Like, because there are some of those conflicts of interest, right? Like in this example, because I like using the G League, the D League, whatever. We shouldn't call it the D League. The developmental league, the G League. If we're using that as like the tier 2, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, would we have to change that up? They couldn't actually be like the affiliates, like the minor league, you know what I mean? They'd have to now be just a different form of professional team. And because they're in professional soccer, there's like these multi-club ownership groups. Like, and it does create a conflict of interest in, say, the Champions League. If you have two teams that are owned by the same ownership group, like they UEFA and FIFA, I believe, have actually had to put some rules in, like, against that kind of stuff. Do you think, like, would that apply here, or do you think that it's like really the American way to just be like, nah, like these MFers, they could be own, one in each, whatever, and letting it ride?
What's the difference from an owner owning in other like sports, i.e., I think it was. I don't think he owned. He may just have a portion of it, but I think when the Knights moved out to Vegas, but also the Aces won. You know what I'm saying? Now, my Raiders ain't gonna win shit, but again, let's say they make the playoffs, but yet you have Al. You have. I keep calling him Al Davis, but because he's still working from the grave. You got the owner that he has, but he has stake in either the Aces, he has stake in the Knights. Fuck around, and he'll never own the A's just because like that whole thing. But what I'm saying is, I can see that being a conflict of interest depending on where that comes from. But if we're using developmental league in this kind of example, like I said, but you only have kind of certain markets. There's not the same amount of developmental league teams as it is in the NBA. So I don't know. I think it's the same, but I think there's an equal amount when we're talking about the regulation on the Premier League, right? Like they would have to add more teams, and then, like you said, now create it as that. But I think that's the closest organization or thing to actually run this and try to see if it works, because they're already, if you will, 75% there. They just need to add the rest of the teams, make it that, and then from there.
Like, we haven't really experienced the Lakers having a bottom barrel last place finish team in how long? Like,
don't do that, because it's
because for the Wizards, I'm not going to have to go back very far at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe had some down years for sure, and then after
last
that,
place, like, because those would be the relegation spots. You know what I mean? Like,
no, not last place, but I hear what you say. I just, again, I don't know. So if you okay, so then here's the question, and I know we probably got on this a little bit longer than we needed to, but then you have draft, right? Because so how does the draft order work on that side? And again, people who don't know, soccer like that, because clearly the NBA is, you get more options, if you will, or you get more. You have the ability to have a number one pick. The
odds are better
for sure. But how does that work in soccer though?
Because they don't have a draft system. They have like a developmental system where people go to it would be like going to Washington Wizards elementary school, and you learn and then go to practice. Like, that's what they do. They've got these academies in internationally, like that, and the US is starting to try to adopt this kind of stuff, but that's it. Like, so you have these kids that join Liverpool at 6-7 years old. They're playing all the way up, and at the same time they're going to class, like they're doing schoolwork and everything. It's a completely different setup. And also what's different is my understanding, it's not a paid thing. So like you have
Gotcha.
to make the team, but it's not like American sports where you're paying to be on the team after you make it. Like, you know, you're there and then you either actually end up getting offered a professional contract or not. So you have this system where you then just it's kind of like free agency all the time. You buy and sell players from other teams across the world at the same time developing your own talent, which you're hoping will ultimately play for your team. So that is also a unique aspect that would kind of play against something like this system being implemented in the current like sporting landscape because we love the draft in American sports. I don't think very many people even know what it is as far as the military goes. That and they probably wouldn't like that. You know what I mean? But you probably need to read a book. You don't know what's coming down the pipe with who we got in office. So, but Americans love a sports draft. You know, like the NFL draft it's a spectacle. You know, like the draft lottery order for the NBA is a spectacle. You know, like we love that kind of shit. So it's a completely different setup, and it would be interesting to see how that would be implemented because you have like a secondary professional league. Like what? They just get like the undrafted free agents. Like how would that work?
Something interesting. Definitely. Yeah. And definitely the chat, for all those who like are nerds like us, put in the comments what you think. Like you said, is it something new or is there already a league that's close enough to kind of implement this? And then, to how would that work out?
And just in general, like if you've had to suffer through basically your entire life of one of your favorite teams as being trash, like, do you think it would have done them some good to get relegated, get punched in the mouth a couple of times, have the owners figure out they're actually going to lose some money out of their pockets if they don't start performing, and then change the product around? Let us know. But that's Under the Bright Lights. And before we move on to our next segment here, I just really quickly do want to shout out. You can see the graphics, but the sponsors are up there. Shout out to the homies, you know what I mean. D Cup Customs, DC Shy Pie, Gen X TV. We waited until the very end, the last first couple episodes, to bring them up. Want to shout out the homies. Love the support. Couldn't ask for better sponsors to be working with. You know what I mean. So check them out. And we're gonna put links and everything that we need to in the descriptions on our YouTube. So next, you know what we love to do on this show? We love to talk fantasy football. And so this I guess topic, this was set up by our girl Risa. And so she had hit me up on IG. She was like, yo, I need some expertise. And so I was like, yo, what you got? She goes, hey, I just did a draft. I've got this squad. And someone's already hit me up with a trade offer. Can you look at this trade and give me some advice? And so, and it was a 3-for-1 trade. And the main player, it was the way that I looked at it was she was giving up the best player in the deal. That's typically what's going to happen in a 3-for-1. That's how that works. But the best player that she was getting from the other side of the deal was a running back, and her running backs were already really, really good. So there, in my opinion, not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot to be gained from swapping out one of her running backs for the best, player in the other side of the deal. Right. And I'm leaving names out because I keep getting I keep getting assaulted for, dropping names and firing nukes off. So we're going to be kind out here. We love all the players, bro. But then she's giving up a wide receiver. In my opinion, one of my favorite wide receivers coming into this season. Like I've got already hella bread invested into this particular player through high stakes, through dynasty, through best ball. Like this is a wide receiver that I am very high in their talent. And so there were, in this trade that she was getting, it was one running back, two wide receivers. One of the wide receivers would just be a bench player. Like you should not be starting that player at all. So in my opinion, worthless in the trade. Like if you're not giving me starters, and I'm giving up a starter, that's all that counts. But then the other wide receiver, which would be a starter for her, in my opinion, is a significant downgrade to the person she would be giving up. The wide receiver she had, in my opinion, could end up being the overall wide receiver one in all of fantasy. Not a wide receiver one, which is numbers 1 through 12 in the rankings, the overall wide receiver one. Whereas I think the guy that she would be getting that would be the most direct replacement in this deal would have been maybe at best a low end wide receiver one. So someone maybe from the 8 to 12 range, if they have the best season of their life possible. Like I really don't see that outcome. Just because of the type of player, like it's not a slight on them,
right,
but they're not in a offense that's going to prioritize them in the way that the player she would be giving up. So my thing here is for trades, when you're looking at these things, just think about the value that you're getting and how you feel about it, because it's one of those things where maybe the players that you're getting in the deal are your favorite players of all time, and it's easy for you to say yes. You know what I mean? But be critical, and even if you're getting more players out of the deal, usually that is going to be because you're giving up the best player, and that's got to be accounted for. So I don't typically like giving up the best player in the deal. I want to be getting the best player in the deal, but not all trades in fantasy football, fantasy basketball, any of the fantasy sports are created equal. You know what I mean? So, but continue to hit us up. We love the fact that the homies are enjoying this segment and asking me questions. Just be on the lookout for the bill. So
we're definitely charging for sure. Not about to be out here making money and we don't get no cuts. Come on.
Well, we really want all the homies cashing out. I say this, and he's gotten to hear me say this for multiple years in a row now as we've been playing fantasy football. But I want all the homies winning all the leagues, placing in the leagues that they're in, whether it's for money, whether it's for bragging rights, as long as I'm not in the league. As long as I'm not in the league, I want all the homies. I'm wishing all of them the success. You know what I mean? So, and as always, before we close out from the cheap seats, we got to do extra time. And so for me, the main thing I wanted to talk about this week is that across multiple sports, we've got this concept of team and player loyalty that's come into question. In the NFL, the situations of Trey Hendrickson and Terry McLaurin, who, me being a Washington Commanders fan, we already talked about. And then in the English Premier League right now in world soccer, one of the biggest stories is the fact that Alexander Isak, one of the best strikers, number 9s in the world, is done with being at Newcastle. Being a Newcastle player, he's saying that he was promised basically a move or, at one point a higher contract, a higher salary that he was not given. And so he feels that the team lied to him and betrayed his trust. And we've got the situations with the players, like Terry and Trey. There are other examples out here, right? But that they feel that they are worth a certain amount, and these teams are not valuing them, or in some instances may not actually have the ability to pay them because they prioritized other players who they've given the bag to. You know what I mean? So what I'm talking about here is that you cannot look at this as a fan from only one side. You can't be so blinded by the fact that, oh, I love this team, this badge, like it's all that. You also got to think about this on the human level, man. Like these are people too. And these are the best people in the world at what they do. You know what I mean? Loyalty goes both ways. And so, hey, I think that as an adult, if you are so gung-ho about a logo, more so than the players that are actually performing for the logo, I think that's a little goofy. I think as a kid, like that's, that is, that's what it is. That's what like that you're introduced to the sport most often through the logo itself. And then you learn about the players, and that's what, keeps you around. But just remember, loyalty goes both ways. And for people to come after the players like that, you also got to remember that these teams are very quick to get rid of any of these players as soon as they feel like they're not, doing what they can for the team. You know what I mean? So that's the main thing I wanted to talk about, bro. I don't know if you have, any comments on it, but that's my thing right now. Loyalty's big at this moment.
As soon as you called him goofy, I was like, I don't have nothing to say. Nothing to say after that. Goofy it is. You know what I'm saying? Again, no. I mean, you said enough, and like I said, take it for what it is. You have to understand on both sides. You can't just be one-sided. So for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. Do we have graphics for the shenanigans that I have about to say? If not, we can go off of it.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
I think so. It's all right. That was on me. Don't worry about it, people. Anyway, you know how I go. I guess to close this out for extra time, because we talk about all sports and all aspects of it. College football, everybody is getting ready to get ramped up again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off, they released the top 25 rankings. So as they go, Texas number 1, Penn State number 2, Ohio State number 3, Clemson number 4, and then I'm just going to keep going down. You have Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, LSU, Miami at number 10. Might be coming back to old school Miami. You have what is that? Arizona State University. You got Illinois. You got South Carolina, Michigan. We probably could have touched bases on that. Maybe next time. That sanction that they put on Michigan is crazy. Well, actually, yeah. But anyway, you got Florida at number 15. You got SMU 16. Kansas State University, Ohio, Texas A&M, Indiana University, Ole Miss. You got Illinois State. I'm sorry, you have ISU. You have Texas Tech, Tennessee, and rounding off the 25 is Boise. Top 25 preseason. This is the preseason kind of, but this is also how they're going to start the year off.
Yep.
Texas edged out Penn State by 2 votes for the number 1 spot. Shout out to Arch Manning.
Yeah, the Archie Manning effect. These rankings will look very, very different after the first 2 games are played. Anyone who's ever been a fan of college football will know that the first 2 weeks are going to throw these rankings on their freaking head, bro. So some of these teams, like one of the things that I love about this is that there was a lot of the blue bloods, it was a lot of the traditional powerhouses of college football are there. Their names are present, but we know a lot of them are actually probably going to have very underwhelming and disappointing seasons, and we're going to know about it in the first 2 games.
Alabama. It is what it is. But yeah, so that's it. That's the top 25. And like I said, we'll kind of keep you guys updated throughout the year as far as like what's going on with that. Of course, college football is a major thing nowadays. And there will be a good not a is it just E, but it'll be a good extra time rant about how college football, how NFL should probably take some pointers from college football when it comes to national championships and the playoffs.
Boom. Hey, what a tee up for the next episode. So thank you to everybody who's been showing us all the love and support, bringing this show back. We really appreciate it. And definitely shout out to the production team, putting the hours in, doing everything for us that they do. And shout out to the sponsors again: D Cup Customs, Gen X TV, DC Shy Pie. The homies, man. So thank you for checking in. Always make sure to check out the We Are Something Else podcast most Thursdays, streaming at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, 6:30 out there on the West. And this is a We Are Something Else production itself from the Cheap Seats. It's your boy CB&E Rich, and we'll see y'all next time, man. Love y'all. Peace.